Hi, this is Christina and Thomas. We're in Acroyoga level 3, learning the final pose, it's side star. To prepare yourself, you should expect that this pose is a lot harder to learn than what we learned previously. The other poses, a lot of fit, coordinated people can often get on the first try, or like at least on the third or fifth try, but side star is something that you might have to spend multiple sessions on it. I hope I can give you some cues to speed it up. There are two ways how sidestep is typically taught. There's one way that's conceptually easier and that most teachers use. However, I think it's a little bit harder because it requires more coordination from the base and the flyer. The base and the flyer have to push in opposite directions. It's usually a lot easier if the base and flyer push into the same direction. So here's what I think is easier. We're going to start in straddle bed, and that way the entire weight of the flyer is already on the base, and we don't have to figure out how to gradually get the weight onto the base. This is what we learned in the previous lesson on straddle throne. Straddle bed. We kind of go through back flying into it. If you missed this, go to the previous class. And now what you want to visualize, my left foot is going to be the anchor point. Christina's left foot is going to pivot from the current horizontal position towards the ground, and her torso is going to pivot up to be horizontal. And we're going to have a hand connection where both of us have 2 fingers on the wrist and 2 fingers on the back of the hand. And you can see here how like a flyer figures it out. She's a little confused in which direction to go. I'm helping her a little bit with my foot to feel the direction. And she has to push her torso up. And I'm helping her a little bit with that outstretched arm. Now she's up. The next thing we have to work on is her hips are not on top of each other. So she wants to roll her hip back, perfect, and get her bottom foot closer to my butt. The next surprising thing for flyers is flyers tend to think they have to be parallel to the base's body, but actually across. And now we're starting to look like a pretty good alignment. The top leg and torso are horizontal, and the bottom leg should go straight down. Nice, and we're like fine-tuning the leg height. And you want to check so your flyer, the hips aren't stuck on top of each other. The flyer's hand should be a little bit above the knee. The flyer's arm should be straight, and the bottom foot should be as close to the base as possible. And so we can go back to straddle bed and to the other side. This motion from one side to the next is pretty fluid and has a catchy name. It's called tick-tock, because you can go tick-tock, back and forth. And I'm encouraging her to bring her foot down. Notice how her leg is down and her foot is pointing towards me. If you have hip pain, it's probably because you're not doing those two things. And there's like a little muscle in the hips that gets exposed and can be very tender. And here we see a little tick-tock, and here's a little fun other alternative way to come out of it. We're not fully teaching it here, but just so you can see, this is called floating pashi. And Christina easily comes to her feet. Nicely done. Okay, now we're going to show you the way teachers typically use it and students think it's easier. They usually think it's easier because it starts from the ground. Christina is going to stand at my side, and you want to build this up properly. Her foot closer to me has to point directly to me, or you're going to get that pain in the hip. She wants to position her body to be as flat as possible. Think flat like a paper. And Then the base wants to place the foot as close as possible to where the hip is going to bend. And because my knees are not very flexible, I have to scoot a little bit away from her. If you have more flexible knees, you can probably be closer and it'll be a little bit easier. Because I'm a little bit away, she's going to have to do a little bit of a hop towards my center line. And we're placing the foot. And now Christina gets into the half moon position. So this is where a lot of people get stuck, but you want to focus as a flyer as going across and as a base as coming down and receiving the flyer. Typically bases try to go up because they want to lift the flyer up, and bases tend to push down because they want to give their weight over. But you can spend like easily an hour with that struggle. So that's why flyers should focus across the body and bases down to receive until you have the full weight. And so this is very nice. And we can kind of go back to straddle bed and going out this way is called cartwheeling out. Nicely done.